The story begins with a boy named Masato who suddenly gets teleported to a parallel world that looks almost identical to his own, except for the fact that there are 5 girls for every guy here. He gets the hang of things pretty fast since everything else feels the same, though there's just one part he can't seem to get over, and that's the way women keep jumping on him like he's the last snack left at the party. Having spent a few days in this world now, Masato realizes that while everyone at some point dreams of being popular with the opposite gender, things are clearly way too wild here as a woman suddenly jumps on him and starts flirting out of nowhere. He tries to get away from her, but the woman keeps insisting until Kumi shows up and jumps on him from behind and helps drag him out of the mess. She tries her best to save her man from being stolen, but Masato starts worrying if the hot woman felt insulted. Kumi just brushes it off and tells him not to bother thinking too much about stuff like this. When Masato says ignoring people isn't easy, Kumi tells him he's just too nice, and it actually worries her, since every woman seems to be after him. It's been a little over a month since Masato landed in this strange world. At first, he was horrified and missed the normal life he took for granted, but then, someone stepped in like a guardian angel, a girl named Kumi. A week ago, Kumi was dragging herself to school, half asleep after staying up way too late playing some dumb online game. While looking for her classroom, she catches 2 creeps staring her down and rating her like an object. She feels frustrated about this, but keeps walking and bumps into another guy who seems decent until he ruins it by offering her to become his 3rd wife. Mentally wrecked, she finally reaches her class, where her friend Mizuo looks at her and jokes that she might not survive till 5th period at this rate. After that, she cheers up and tells Kumi that they gotta catch a handsome guy. They talk about the boys in their badminton club, and Kumi starts thinking that it's not like she doesn't want a boyfriend. It's just that she's tired of always being picked out of pity or convenience. Deep down, she wonders if there's even a guy who sees women as equals. But then Mizuo snaps her out of her dream and tells her that she's cute, but she needs to be more aggressive, or else she'll end up single forever. After that, she gets a notification on her phone telling her about class cancellation, and she ends up outside the classroom with no one to talk to as Mizuo leaves for her class. While looking around, she spots a guy sitting alone on a bench, who turns out to be Masato, looking completely stressed out. At first, she thinks that some girls would certainly come and help him, but she doesn't feel good about leaving him alone either. While looking at him, she thinks that he's handsome, but there seems to be something else about him as well that makes him different from the men that she knows. Finally, she clenches her fists and builds up the courage to walk up to him and asks if he was trying to register for his courses. Masato nods and explains that his enrollment process is getting delayed. The way he smiles so casually throws her off since this is the first time she has seen a guy smiling this naturally without trying to impress anyone. She ends up giving him a slightly awkward grin and offers to help, immediately thinking she must have creeped him out. But to her surprise, Masato actually brightens up. While she stands there confused, he excitedly pulls up his laptop and starts telling her about his department and the facility. Then Masato shifts over on the bench making space like he wants Kumi to sit next to him, which instantly makes her a little anxious as she wonders if she is having the wrong idea. Kumi tells herself that if she were ever in a situation like his, she would probably start bawling on the spot and earn the title of the random girl who cries in public. As she finally sits beside him and nothing weird happens, she leans over to glance at his laptop and mentions that they are actually in the same department. Masato thanks her for the help, assuming she is a senior, but Kumi quickly corrects him saying that she is just a freshman like him. The second those words leave her mouth, she gets overwhelmed with embarrassment and hides her face, thinking he must believe she had some weird hidden agenda and is probably about to mock her. But instead the boy simply smiles and says that he doesn't really have any friends. He then introduces himself as Katasato Masato and asks her to share her name too. And that's when Kumi starts to feel like there might actually be something different about this guy. She then puts on a natural smile, finally shaking off her embarrassment, and introduces herself as Igarashi Kumi. As she blushes lightly, Kumi touches her face, unsure if that was a proper smile or just something awkward she forced out. When Masato shows her his completely empty schedule, she sees the perfect opening and asks if it would be all right for them to take the same classes. Right after saying that, Kumi again starts second-guessing herself, wondering if she came off too forward. Just as Masato opens his mouth to respond, Her nerves spike and she panics inside, bracing herself for rejection. But instead, Masato calls her a genius. He says it would honestly be super helpful for him, but still asks if she's doing all this just to help him out of kindness. Kumi gets confused why the boy isn't suspicious of her intentions or teasing her for clearly trying to get close to him. Instead of overthinking it further, she decides to just go with the flow and treat this like a lucky dream, asking to see his schedule. After making a few adjustments to help him out, Masato thanks her sincerely, telling her just how much she's helped him before saying he'll head home since his student ID still hasn't arrived, making attending class kind of pointless for now. Kumi feels genuinely happy to get to talk with a boy like this for the first time, and just as Masato is about to walk away, he suddenly turns back and asks her for a favor. Kumi blanks out completely when he asks her to be his friend. In a world where it's always the girls who have to take the first step and the boys get to choose, this moment feels unreal. Without even thinking twice, Kumi nods and agrees right away. It's because of Masato that Kumi now looks forward to going to university, already hoping she'll run into him again soon. After he leaves, she sits down completely embarrassed, feeling like Lady Luck just tapped her on the shoulder. And looking at how perfectly everything played out, Masato now feels less like a normal guy and more like a fairy tale prince to her. She stays close, subtly keeping watch over Masato to make sure no other girls start crowding around him, fully aware of how clueless he can be. When Masato flashes her a smile, Kumi nervously asks if something's wrong. But the boy just holds out his hand and drops a few candies into hers, thanking her in his own simple way. He wins the lady's heart all over again as she blushes like a red-hot tomato, then quietly walks beside him, thinking just how unfair he is for being this perfect. For the rest of the day, Kumi can't stop thinking about how he unknowingly does everything she's ever wished a boy would do. And even if it feels like a far-off dream right now, she quietly vows to herself that one day she's going to become his wife. The next morning, Masato wakes up and gets ready to head to college. It has already been a month since he was dumped into this parallel world. For him, the timeline here began right after graduating high school and applying to college. At first, adjusting to this new reality was tough, but after a month, things have settled into something close to normal. Most of the credit for that goes to a woman named Tsukata Eika. As Masato steps out of his room, Eika greets him and reminds him about his evening shift. She is the one who took him in when he first arrived, and to him she feels like a fairy godmother. There is nothing romantic between them since Eika is already married, though for some mysterious reason she lives apart from her hubby. Eika points out that Masato has been showering quite a lot lately before heading off to work, and the boy explains that it's because he keeps exercising right up until it's time to leave, which leaves him drenched in sweat. As he gets ready to leave, the lady caretaker brings up whether he has made any friends yet, and when Masato starts acting all sus, she scolds him on the spot and tells him to make sure no girl pulls a weird trick on him, and to inform her beforehand if he ever plans on staying out overnight. Masato rushes off to college, and just as he steps into the classroom, he spots Kumi waving in his direction, letting him know exactly where she is. It looks like the girl has saved a seat for him, and that simple act makes the boy feel truly grateful to have someone like her around. Kumi then gives him a quick pinch and tells him he owes her a meal as a thank you for saving the spot. Masato makes a weird face for a second as he wonders if the girl might actually like him or something. And just before agreeing to her proposal, he pauses to ask if she meant having the meal tonight, only to end up turning her down with a simple explanation that he has a shift scheduled. Kumi asks the guy if his shift always ends up on Fridays, remembering that he had one last time too. She then casually suggests if he could come on Monday instead, and when Masato agrees without a fuss, she lights up right away, saying she's really looking forward to it. Masato watches her getting more adorable by the second, and though a part of him wonders what her true intentions might be, he chooses not to overthink it for now. He finds himself thinking about Kumi again, realizing that aside from being undeniably cute, she's also gone the extra mile to help him out with everything, and it hits him that if this were his original world, there's no way someone like him would have ever gotten close to someone like her. Masato figures a girl like her must be popular with both guys and girls, and that her other friends would probably want to take classes with her too. That thought makes him feel a little guilty, like he's selfishly keeping a beautiful maiden like her tied to a broomstick like him. And so he turns to her and asks if she's really fine with taking classes with him instead of spending that time with her other friends. Kumi takes a brief pause to think before replying that it's not true since she can always meet her friends at other places like the club. Masado tells her that she should still take classes with her other friends too, now that he's already caught up with everything in class. The moment she hears that, the cute girl literally petrifies, looking at him with a smile that's so terrifying it nearly gives him a heart attack, leaving him seriously wondering if he said something horribly wrong. The story slides back to the moment Kumi first enters the classroom. She glances around, searching for Masado, and when she doesn't spot him anywhere, she decides to save him a seat. She then texts him to let him know about the saved seat, but can't stop debating whether adding a heart would come off as cringe. After a moment of hesitation, she gives herself a little push, figuring that it's already been a month, and Masado probably wouldn't mind it anymore. Kumi blushes just thinking about the boy, finding him way too nice for his own good, though what really worries her is how completely oblivious he can be, making it way too easy for some nasty witch to pull a fast one on him. She clenches her fist with determination, silently vowing to protect him no matter what, and makes up her mind to stay by his side not just through college, but even after that by marrying him someday. The very idea leaves her feeling fluttery and shy as embarrassment takes over her face. Right as she's lost in that dreamy little fantasy of hers, her phone buzzes and she quickly checks it, only to find a cute thank you emoji sent by none other than her future hubby. That simple gesture strengthens her resolve again as she tells herself she'll protect him no matter what, and starts thinking it's finally time to take things to the next level and somehow get even closer. That's when Masado shows up, and she waves at him with the brightest smile she's got. While chatting with him, she starts thinking about how she could possibly confess in a way that wouldn't get her rejected, and to take things one step at a time. The next move she can come up with is a date. The thought alone makes her cheeks warm as she starts thinking about his hobbies and what kind of food he might like. Wanting to learn more about Masado and grow even closer, she gathers up her courage and asks him out for dinner. After the two settle on Monday, Kumi begins thinking about making a reservation for their meal and wonders what other kind of place he might enjoy visiting. As her mind drifts deeper into her plans, the moment snaps back to the present where Masado unknowingly leaves her frozen in shock after casually suggesting she spend time with her other friends. Kumi flashes a terrifying smile as she asks the guy if there's another girl he'd rather take classes with. Her mind spins with a storm of thoughts, and it starts to feel like Masado is slowly slipping out of her grasp. Just when it seems like she might break down and cry, Masado quickly explains that she's taken it the wrong way, saying he's beyond thankful that a beautiful girl like her is even willing to let him study with her. He goes on to admit that she's the only friend he really has. Hearing him call her beautiful makes her cheeks glow, and she looks at him while asking if he truly finds her cute. Masado nods with a grin, though he gently adds that she could use a bit more confidence. That single line turns her into a flustered mess, blushing like a tomato as she hides her face in pure excitement. After class ends and Masado walks off, Kumi sits there thinking how she never actually meant to ask whether he wanted to spend time with someone else. Just then Mizuo walks up behind the girl and clings to her, asking why she's standing there looking completely love-struck. Kumi starts shouting in denial at first, but then her face turns red. Mizuo grins and asks when she's planning to introduce her new friend, making Kumi remember their little promise about always sharing details when it comes to boys. Mizuo doesn't stop there and reminds her how Kumi had said she couldn't be in the same class as her, yet here she is hanging out with a cute guy, clearly making her upset. Kumi bows in front of her friend and apologizes, saying she can't introduce the boy to her. Mizuo looks taken aback, but Kumi says she's serious, quietly thinking to herself that she just can't hand Masado over to anyone. After that, Mizuo says she seriously can't believe her own bestie is bowing like some side character, and warns her that now she's definitely spilling all the tea about the other guys. The lady, still looking head over heels, promises she'll do her best, and thanks Mizuo for not going full drama queen. Mizuo jumps on her right after and declares that she's absolutely winning the hubby race first, and tells her to bring her a game because it is on now. Meanwhile, ever since Kumi caught feelings for the boy, her whole world turns into glitter mode, but the second she spots some random girl getting a little too close to her hubby, everything flips into a dark spiral of discomfort. She feels something twist inside her, and starts thinking she might do literally anything for Masado, which is when it finally clicks that this weird storm brewing inside her is straight up jealousy. and she is really down bad for him. The scene now shifts to him at a basketball court as Masado throws some clean three-pointers. He enjoys hurling balls through hoops because he does it every day right after school ends and keeps going until his part-time job begins. Even though he prefers playing at his usual spot since it used to stay almost empty in this world, he finds it nearly impossible to play alone now because some girls always stare from outside, and Kumi already told him not to join the club since it's full of savage beasts just waiting to tear into innocent guys like him. Still, a tiny burst of excitement calls out to him from behind, so he's not all by himself anymore. The little girl puffs her chest and boasts with pride that she will definitely win and rubs her win right in his face for sure. Then he'll need to hand over his favorite spot to her. Big Brother accepts the challenge and tells the bold little girl to save all that trash talk for someone her own size. Yuka starts fuming and makes it clear to him that she is a middle schooler now, which makes Masado think back to the time when he was still new to this world and had claimed the court as his own because he needed a spot to play, even though it had already been Yuka's practice place way before him. Being the kind big brother he is, he let her use it the first few times they met. But after watching him leave her alone again and again, she ended up feeling sorry for him and decided to challenge him to a match instead. It didn't take long for the two to start vibing, and they even came up with a rule that said the winner gets to keep the spot. And of course Masado kept winning because he's almost twice her size. But Yuka isn't just any average lowly and carries some serious skill packed inside that cute Pokemon form factor. So he's pretty sure she'll end up crushing him at this game once she levels up in age. The game begins and Yuka tries to pull off a sneaky move by going for a last-second crossover. And while Masado sees through it like always, as he tries to casually snatch the ball back from her, she whips out some wild LeBron James moves and slides right past him. Annoyed, Masado glares at the tiny goblin twirling around him like he's some clueless clown and steps in to stop her, but Yuka's smug grin suddenly vanishes as she trips. Just as she is about to hit the floor, he somehow grabs her in time and saves her from smashing her face flat like a pancake. However, that heroic move places him in a nice position that could get him tossed in a not-so-nice jail cell. Bro instantly tries to push her off and calls out to her, but Yuka gets overwhelmed with pure embarrassment and faints right then and there. He catches her head with his legs before it hits the court and plays it off like he's just doing a basic lower abs workout, while the shy girl remembers how this looks a lot like what happened the day they first met. Flashing back to a month ago, Yuka gets totally stunned when her friend Rika casually drops the bomb that she confessed to a boy and he actually said yes. Another one of their friends gets salty at the lucky girl and turns to Yuka, who's still trying to process the info, and asks if she's confessed to anyone yet. Yuka admits she doesn't really like any of the boys in their class. She remembers how those little hormone-driven weirdos made gross jokes during gym and teased her for playing basketball, saying it makes girls too tall and only freaks like tall girls anyway. Later, when one of her friends asks if she's short like the boys supposedly prefer, the boys act all bold and say height doesn't matter when a girl stinks as bad as her. And even then, she doesn't feel bad hearing that rude comment. That mean attitude is the same reason they mock her for being tall and judge her before even trying to know her. And the worst part is that everyone treats that kind of behavior like it's totally fine. That's exactly why she doesn't even bother wasting time on the boys in her class and would much rather play with her basketball, which is way more fun. Hearing that, her friends start giggling since it sounds so typically Yuka. They joke that the only reason they joined was to get close to the boys and catch some of that steamy drama. And while Yuka just wants to play in peace, her friend throws shade and calls her a sneaky girl still hiding in the closet. Caught off guard, Yuka snaps back that she totally isn't, but then her friend casually spills that she caught her reading spicy novels in class and also found a massage device to help with muscle soreness under her bed the time she came over. Yuka instantly becomes flustered and red. She says it's normal for a girl her age, and that her only issue is that the boys in their class are too immature, but her friends keep roasting her all the way home. That day, she feels surprised to find someone already using the court, and thinks it's no big deal at first until she notices that the person inside is a hot guy playing all alone. As she watches him from the fence, she feels completely blown away by how smooth his movements are, and realizes that no guy she's seen in real life moves like that. Only the ones in videos, and even then, this guy plays better than those sweaty tryhards. She smashes her face against the fence, trying to get a better view of him from behind as he jumps high with those long, elegant legs and slams the ball in like a boss. Staring at the cool guy all heated up and looking fine, her heart starts pounding as she imagines how amazing he must smell. Right then, Masado walks up to her and says he's heading out so she can use the court now. Watching the handsome hunk leave just because he noticed her, Yuka suddenly finds the courage to stop him so she doesn't lose her one shot. All fired up, Yuka lets out a tiny sound that makes Masado pause in his tracks, but the words refuse to come out. Her mind runs wild with thoughts flying around like a Ferrari on turbo, yet she fails to find anything that won't make her sound really desperate. In the end, she gives up and lets him go, and Masado walks back home. After that, Yuka sinks into full regret mode for blowing a perfect chance, but then hypes herself up by saying she's a girl of true grit who never gives up on what she wants. From that day on, she starts showing up at the basketball court every single day without skipping, even ignoring the other school clubs just to catch another glimpse of him. Her sudden obsession is so intense that her friends worry she might be hooked on something sketchy. But then, on one fateful day, she rushes to the court all worn out from running, and the second she spots Masado again, all of the fatigue magically fades away. As she watches silently through the fence, she feels herself drooling over the beauty of his flawless form while he shoots those perfect threes, and her heart starts racing just like it did the very first time. But this time, the small girl steps right into the court and walks straight toward him with big puppy eyes that he recognizes right away. She can barely believe he actually remembers her, but that alone isn't enough, so she tells herself that she needs to make a move that will stay burned into his memory forever. So the knee-height menace challenges him to a duel, or rather, politely requests him to have a match with her, leaving Masado absolutely stunned. Seeing his confused expression, she starts doubting herself for being so bold and suddenly feels like a total clown trying to challenge a guy twice her size. Still, the kind-hearted big brother says yes to her cute little offer and tells her he's actually been waiting for someone to play with, flashing that smug grin of his, as he adds that he never goes easy on a girl because he is a strong supporter of gender equality like Kazuma. Hearing that, Yuka feels completely stunned that she actually gets to play a match against her idol and ends up having the time of her life even while he totally wrecks her. After the match, Masado tells her that he really enjoyed playing with her, which makes her grin like a naughty little gremlin, and when he notices how tired she looks, he reminds her to stay hydrated. When she checks her bag, Yuka realizes she forgot her water bottle, so as a good big brother he offers her his own. Yuka feels awkward and tries to play it cool by saying she will just grab one from the vending machine instead. After politely offering him to drink first, she stares in complete silence at the bottle he hands over. Shaking like some old man with Parkinson's, Yuka feels like a total sinner for doing something as despicable as sipping from the same bottle his lips have touched, which basically makes it an indirect smooch. She fears that if she keeps hesitating, he'll start picking up on what she's thinking and get totally grossed out. Now practically dying for a taste of that heavenly H2O, she starts drinking and pretending like it's the most normal thing ever while her mind fills with images of a steamy moment with Masado. Girl almost faints thinking about this guy's unbelievable riz, and the way his girthy fingers wrap around her ball is just too hot for her to handle. Her brain keeps looping all those spicy thoughts until her body finally gives in, and the reason Yuka collapses now is because she's completely overwhelmed lying right on top of his rock-solid pecs. Back in the present, Yuka slowly wakes up and says sorry for making him worry so much, but Masado assures her it's totally fine, though they should head home soon since it's already getting kind of late. Feeling crushed with regret, Yuka stands up thinking she just ruined her one and only chance to play with him again, but Masado places a hand on her shoulder and promises with a big smile that he'll return to reclaim his throne next week. Being that close to her idol nearly causes her soft little heart to explode. He then tells her she can use his towel to dry off and adds that he has a backup one, so it's no big deal. But it actually becomes a very big deal because Yuka starts geeking out over the fact that she's holding something he personally used. After that, he gives her a quick pep talk, saying that with how well she moves, she's already above most guys in her grade, and after wishing her good luck, he heads off with a casual goodbye. Now sitting there alone, Yuka thinks that big bro Masado always knows exactly what she needs to hear, and then she grabs the towel and sniffs it so hard it almost looks illegal. Thinking about all those spicy thoughts she has about him fills her with guilt, but as she keeps sniffing like a maniac on crack, Yuka secretly admits to herself that she's definitely one naughty girl. The next day, Masato is at work in a fancy-looking place that seems to be a host club. There, he greets a girl named Sarah, who is back to see him once again. Rewinding back to an hour earlier inside the buzzing boys' host club, Masato watches all the other guys rizzing girls left and right with surface-level compliments about how cute and adorbs they are even when they're painfully average. Hearing those lines, he feels like his soul is slowly draining with every second spent there. But at the end of the day, he doesn't really get a choice. He's stuck working as a waiter thanks to Eika, and he honestly feels bad seeing one of his respectable seniors drool like a fool the second her favorite host walks past. Masato keeps the job just to get by, but it definitely wears him out watching guys and girls fake their way through these steamy chats, tossing out obvious lies just to feel something. Every now and then, a customer flirts with him too, and he has to shut it down real quick since he's not even old enough to drink yet. Right as things start to get awkward, her host Kazuto swoops in like a Giga Chad to keep Masato safely in the shadows. On the other hand, as the flirting resumes at full force, Masato quietly makes a smooth escape from that ticking time bomb of a situation. He can't help feeling a little down, thinking how the only reason he's not more popular is because he's underage, and stuck just serving drinks like a fresh graduate with no wife and no life. While sulking in that thought, one of his seniors shoots him a sly grin and informs him someone is asking for him at table 3. Frozen for a second, Masato doesn't quite believe that a girl would ever request him, but the guy reminds him it's the usual one who always asks for him, so he better get moving and go make his one loyal customer's day. Rocking his suit like a king, Masato walks up to his admirer and greets her with a warm good day. He slides into the seat next to her with a picture-perfect smile and teases her, asking why she's back again. She gives the usual excuse about having some free time on her hands, even though she says that every single time without fail. The woman sipping beer is Mochizuki Sarah, a regular guest who keeps requesting Masato for some reason, even though talking to him feels about as thrilling as filling out tax forms. Sarah changes the topic and brings up how hard it must be dealing with all these unreasonable girls, but Masato takes the blame, saying it's kind of on him too. After all, this is a place for drinking and having fun, and he's the only loser in the building who can't even join the party. Drunk beyond repair, Sarah goes on a rant about how she doesn't care he's a total flop as a man, so he should be grateful she spends her precious time on a guy like him. After that, she sits there waiting all shy-like for a response, and Masato hits her with a golden laugh, saying she's not wrong, and maybe they really are the only genuine match in the whole bar. While she processes his smooth compliment, Sarah's friend Mickey barges in and starts teasing Masato, asking him to make a move already since it's super obvious Sarah's crushing on him like crazy. Seeing him smiling like an idiot, Sarah makes sure he knows she only tagged along because her senior dragged her here, and she called for him again because somehow, talking to him doesn't make her want to jump off a cliff, unlike pretty much every other guy. Masato thanks her for being thoughtful and admits the only things he's any good at are listening and pouring drinks. But hey, her stories are way more interesting than most. Jealous, Sarah pouts and asks him if he says that to every woman off the street since it's part of his job. Masato works his charm and confesses she's the only one weird enough to keep requesting him, so that makes her his one and only. That makes her redder than a stop sign, and her mood instantly lights up thanks to his smooth line. Watching he cute smile, Masato flashes back to the first time she showed up in the club looking down in the dumps until she opened up to him. And now, if chatting with him even slightly brightens her day, he's honestly glad he can do that much for a woman as beautiful as her. Meanwhile, he whips out his phone and shows her a cute fox photo, but Sarah doesn't even see the screen. She's totally lost in his eyes, hopelessly swooning. She thinks to herself that her little angel is probably the only reason life doesn't feel completely pointless. About a month earlier, back at her office, her manager scolded her for not writing the company name on a letter, but Sarah had already asked beforehand. Still, her manager played dumb and insulted her, even saying her hearing is about as bad as her IQ. After that, the same wrinkled gremlin of a manager loudly muttered that it's no surprise no man wants to marry someone like her. That comment nearly brings Sarah to tears, since rumors were already flying about how she was delulu for thinking she even had a boyfriend. Turns out, Her old college boyfriend never considered them a couple to begin with, and that guy was already juggling 2 girlfriends the entire time he was with her. The shock from that brutal truth hit so hard she cried herself into her pillow that night, blaming herself for feeling happy about dating him in the first place. She starts wondering if maybe she only dated him because all her friends already had boyfriends. For days, she drowns her sadness in tears and cheap alcohol, but the hurt only gets worse every time she scrolls through social media and sees her friends posting romantic, lovey-dovey couple pics while she's stuck grinding at work, trapped in the same loop of work and sleep. During these tough days, she completely loses her confidence and wonders if she's doomed to stay alone forever until one day, her friend Mickey invites her out to a boys' bar where the guys are seriously attractive, and apparently hot guys are the magical solution to all emotional breakdowns. Hearing that, she just wants to rush home and cry herself to sleep again, but since Mickey is being so kind, Sarah decides she might as well give it a shot. After that, Mickey's so thrilled she gives her a full-on bear hug, while Sarah heads out with zero expectations. Standing outside, she still doubts any fun will come from a dull woman like herself, but she follows Mickey's lead anyway. Suddenly, a hot blonde greets Mickey, and Sarah's jaw hits the floor at whatever black magic he casts on her as she instantly turns into some giggling schoolgirl and talks to him like he's her hubby. Her eyes practically pop out that Mickey has a side like this. Then she wonders what to do while those two flirt like they're in a K-drama. Yuyusei asks who Sarah plans to request, and Mickey winks that she's loyal to him before strolling to the couches to do who knows what. Seeing Sarah standing alone, the other guys give her a warm welcome that makes her heart skip a beat. She sits for a drink and wonders if maybe these charming hosts might lift her spirits a little, though there's still that tiny voice in her head whispering they're all secretly laughing at the thirsty women blowing paychecks for their attention. Still, she has to respect that they're just doing their jobs well with no attitude, no eye rolls, just smiles and smooth talk to melt girls like Mickey. Sarah quickly catches herself spiraling into negativity, so she tells her brain to cool it and decides she'll head out soon after chatting a little with the host headed her way, especially since she's got work tomorrow, though it's been a hot minute since she let herself sleep in. Just then, she hears someone behind her, and Masado introduces himself with the usual friendly smile, but to her, he might as well be an angel from heaven sent to fix her entire sad existence. When he asks her name and sits down, she goes quiet and stares at the adorable guy like she's in the first episode of a romance anime. Sarah hadn't expected guys like him to exist, and she finds his baby face so ridiculously cute that a part of her selfishly wants to hoard him forever. Sarah admits it's her first time coming after work and promises to return the next day since her weekend is free, which makes Masado light up like it's Christmas. Hearing a customer say they want to come back for him clearly makes him way too happy. After a short pause, Sarah ends up smiling naturally, something she hasn't done in what feels like forever, so when Masado asks what she does on her off days, she opens up and says she's a gamer. Though she quickly regrets saying that because he might think she's a nerdy otaku now, but instead Masado lights up again and asks what games she's into. The two spend the rest of the night geeking out about games, but in the back of her mind, Sarah still worries whether all his smiles and laughs are genuine or just another part of his job. Wanting to shut down that demon voice, Sarah grabs her beer and downs it in one go like it's a chug jug, then goes off about her awful boss, her trash ex, and coworkers who are all garbage that should get incinerated in a landfill. Even though Sarah knows better and has no clue how much she's had to drink, she hits a new emotional low and blurts that the biggest clown in the room is her for ever thinking her college boyfriend cared enough to take her seriously. Still, Masado reminds her it was the guy who asked her out first, and she remembers how young and hot-headed she was to fall for his obvious act. When she starts talking herself down again, Masado suddenly shouts that none of it was her fault, but she fires back that women always get the short end, and it's not like she had better choices. However, Masado finds that unacceptable and says that even if there are tons of women out there, their feelings shouldn't be treated like they're disposable, and he seriously hates guys who pull stuff like that. Sarah is shocked that someone like him, who could just sit still and attract women like simps to a Twitch streamer, would get angry for her sake. And just when Sarah thinks this guy might be too perfect for this world, he blushes shyly and says he would be honored to date a beautiful lady like her. Sarah feels the earth beneath her feet disappear as something new awakens inside her. From that day on, she pulls a Yuno and literally goes mad in love, living only for her angel Masato and dedicating every waking moment to becoming his #1 girl. That night, she lies in bed gazing at his photo while whispering his name way too many times to count. Sarah gets this wild idea that if she can't see him again, her life might literally end right there. Back in the present, Mickey tells her to stop flirting because it's time to go home, which makes Sarah so flustered that she nearly chokes while calling Masato a scrawny little boy the second she sees his adorable face. Unable to keep up the tough act, Sarah can't help but think Masato is nowhere near scrawny and actually has a dangerously fine build. In the end, she hides her red face in embarrassment for mocking him and feels pretty guilty. But her dream guy takes her hand and says he knows his flaws, and it'd be an absolute honor to serve her next time. After that, he helps the slightly too drunk lady out, and even though she knows it's wrong to act so possessive, she barely mumbles that he's not allowed to take requests from any woman besides her. Masato just smiles and tells her he only works on Fridays, and she has him booked every week, which makes Sarah suddenly desperately wish she could see him a lot more than once a week. Seeing her friend deep in romantic delusion, Mickey jumps her and teases her about the little love show with Masato, cracking a joke that Sarah sure got her money's worth out of her one-time visit. Having said that, the girls continue on to the next spot, though now Sarah feels lucky just to have Masato and her thoughtful senior by her side. At the train station, they finally part ways, and Sarah's caught off guard by how fast the night passed, especially now that the last train's already on its way. Suddenly, her eyes land on her cute angel strolling nearby, so naturally, she does what any maniac high on hormones might and forgets her train to follow him home instead. Her heart's telling her no, but her body's telling her yeah, and she shamelessly stalks him all the way back to his place. Masato senses something weird, but doesn't spot anyone behind him since Sarah mastered the art of sneaking on a target from too many hours of Assassin's Creed. As he walks ahead, her palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, and something inside tells her this might be very, very wrong. Still, she creeps up to his building and carefully memorizes the nameplate before jotting his address into her phone with a silent vow to never use it for anything malicious, even while staring at it like an obsessed goblin. Just then, a hiss escapes from his window, and a twisted grin curls across Sarah's face as she figures out what's happening inside. She feels downright sinful knowing he's showering just a wall away. Sitting there on the ground, madly in love, Sarah admits to herself she is beyond fixing. The scene shifts to Monday morning, where Eika informs Masato that a package has arrived for him from the facility. He thanks her and quickly opens the box, finding the same belongings he had in his previous life. Still, a few unfamiliar items also catch his eye. The poor guy was an orphan in his old world and had to grow up in foster care, and after learning that the Masato from this world lived in the same kind of place, he starts wondering if the two of them had somehow switched places. After that, Eika gently tells him that no matter what his past is, she is willing to take care of him and even says he can return to the facility if that's what he wants. But with the way this woman has treated him so far, there is no way he would ever want to leave, and he tells Eika that once he graduates, he'll make sure to repay the debt. The gentle lady pats the guy's head and tells him to enjoy his campus life for now and leave the rest for when it really matters. Being comforted like that makes Masato wonder if having parents feels something like this, and he can't help but quietly hope that the other Masato who ended up in his world has also met someone like Eika. Right after he's done feeling sorry for his parallel self, his eyes land on the clock and he suddenly realizes he's running late for his date with Kumi. Meanwhile, Kumi reaches the meeting spot looking all pumped up. She's spent the entire week getting ready for this moment, trying to perfect the cutest version of herself she could pull off. As she fixes a few last-minute details, Masato calls out to her, catching her off guard. He quickly apologizes for startling her, but Kumi ends up falling even harder for that easygoing smile of his. The guy compliments her outfit in the exact way every girl hopes to hear, and Kumi, a little flustered, asks if he really means it. Masato tells her that she always looks cute anyway. When Masato points out that he barely owns anything that could pass for good clothes, Kumi suggests checking out a few stores before the movie. Masato agrees and asks her to pick out something that could make someone shaped like a broomstick look halfway decent. Soon after, the duo ends up seated inside the theater, with Masato now looking like a walking wardrobe stuffed with new clothes. Kumi feels a little guilty and apologizes for getting so excited that she completely lost track of how much they ended up buying. But Masato lifts her mood by saying she was a huge help, and now he won't need to go shopping for a while. After that, they talk about how empty the theater looks, probably because it's a weekday, and Masato mentions that this might be one of the very few romance movies he's ever watched. Hearing that makes the girl blush right away, since the whole reason she picked this movie in the first place was because she hoped it might help him notice her a little more. Just then the movie begins, and Masato, being the way he is, locks all his attention onto the screen, while the girl can't stop staring at his face. She starts wondering how he'd react if she held his hand, then worries if he'd forgive her or not, and her mind instantly fills with every worst-case scenario possible. Still, she doesn't back down and slowly brushes her hand against his, only for the ultimate brick wall of a boy to not notice a thing. After that, once they step out of the theater, Masato smiles and says the movie was really good. Meanwhile, the poor girl had barely focused on the film at all and felt a little disheartened knowing he didn't even glance her way. But her sulking doesn't last long, because the same clueless guy says he's already looking forward to their next outing, which lights up Kumi's face as she ends up enjoying the rest of their time together. The next day, during the break after second period, Kumi finds herself still daydreaming about her future hubby. Mizuo waves at her from across the room, letting her know that she saved her seat. Kumi thanks her and heads over, finding her friend looking way too cheerful, so she finally asks what's going on. Mizuo happily reveals that today is the day she's going to win at love. Kumi jumps up in excitement and asks if she's planning to confess her feelings. Mizuo nods with a grin and says she's feeling confident this time, especially since the guy she likes has been talking to her a lot lately. Kumi finds out it's none other than Kato from Mizuho's club, and her friend insists that their constant eye contact has to mean something. After that, Kumi asks her friend if just making eye contact is really enough reason to confess, and Mizuo tells her to quit mocking now that she's already snagged her perfect guy. This makes Kumi feel a bit shy and awkward, but Mizuo quickly adds that it won't be long before they can start going on double dates together. After spilling everything to her best friend, Mizuo heads off to confess, leaving Kumi a little worried about how things might turn out. Since she's known Mizuo for ages, Kumi is well aware of how many times her friend's confessions have ended in disaster, and even though Kato acts all friendly, there's something off about him that she just can't shake. Kumi gets up and decides to sneak a quick peek to see how the confession is going. Meanwhile, she looks around different rooms trying to spot them when she suddenly hears someone yelling. She peeks in through a door and finds that shady guy shouting at her friend, blaming her for taking his kindness for granted. Turns out, Kato has not only rejected Mizuho's confession, but is now tearing into her like a complete jerk. The guy even has the nerve to call her a waste of time and warns her not to breathe a word of this to anyone. Right then, Kumi clenches her teeth, barely holding herself back after watching her friend get grilled like that. Just as the tension builds, Mizuo walks up to her and calmly says that eavesdropping isn't a great look. Even after taking such a massive hit, the poor girl somehow keeps it together. She should be emotionally flatlined by now, but instead, she keeps her cool and just shrugs it off, saying things got a little messy. After that, Mizuo clings to Kumi and jokes that the double date plan might need to be pushed back a bit. Her words hit harder than expected and leave Kumi wiping her tears as she hides her face, wishing deep down that her friend ends up with someone way better than that loser. Mizuo then nudges her to get going since the third period is about to begin and reminds her not to keep her guy waiting. Even though Mizuo keeps up a calm front, Kumi knows all too well that her friend is just pretending to be okay. It's almost impossible to believe someone could bounce back so easily after being treated like that. She sends a silent prayer for her friend's happiness and walks into the classroom where the lecture is already in full swing. Later, Masato waves at her, letting her know he saved a seat, and Kumi lights up the moment she sees him. To her, he looks like all the world's kindness packed into one perfect boy, as if someone crafted him without a single flaw. She can't help but compare him to that jerk Kato, who in her mind belongs at the very bottom of the trash heap. As she quietly mutters that she'll never forgive that guy, Masato picks up on her mood and turns to ask what's wrong. Kumi ends up spilling everything to her future hubby, which gets him angry at the creep too. He says he wishes he could call the guy out right now, but admits that doing so would probably end up going nowhere. After that, Masato gives her a gentle smile and says that the best way to deal with people like that is to end up way happier than them. Hearing that, Kumi blushes and silently prays that her friend finds someone who truly deserves her. Masato then asks if her friend really means that much to her, and Kumi explains that Mizuo has always been her bestie no matter what. Meanwhile, Mizuo walks down the college alley, dragging along her shattered heart. The poor girl stumbles and ends up getting scolded by some random lady. Just as Kumi is wishing for someone better to come into her friend's life, a handsome guy shows up and checks in on Mizuo, asking if she's hurt. As this happens, Mizuo finds herself lost in thoughts about the past. She remembers being a girl who used to chase the glittering idea of love, always drawn to the spark she saw in songs, stories, and movies that painted love as something magical. But the reality she faced turned out to be the complete opposite, leaving her questioning what love is even supposed to mean. After that, she begins to wonder what kind of love she truly wants. She thinks of those charming, flawless TV idols everyone swoons over, but deep down, she never dreams of being their girlfriend. What she longs for is a kind of love where someone wants to stay by her side forever, but sadly, something like that has never come her way. She used to hear from others that dating would make her feel good, and that staying single for too long might seem embarrassing. She had been willing to make compromises and kept chasing after one boy after another. But after what happened last time, she feels like all her hopes have faded. Strangely, she cannot even bring herself to feel angry, and slowly it hits her that she never truly wanted to date that stupid guy in the first place. All she had really been after was a boyfriend, even if it was just in name. She ends up blaming herself for everything and feels a slight pang of jealousy toward her friend Kumi. Still, she somehow manages to pull herself out of that gloomy spiral and decides to cheer up, determined to find someone who is actually perfect for her this time. But no matter how hard she tries to cheer herself up, her broken heart refuses to mend just like that. She quietly settles down in a corner, leaning against the wall, and begins to cry like a child who could make anyone fall for her just by looking. After a while, she gets on a train, only to feel motion sickness creep in, and starts wondering if she has always been this weak. As she finally steps out, she tries to calm herself down by thinking that no one is watching or paying her any attention. Still, she begins questioning whether it is really okay for her to feel this crush just because of a rejection. With those thoughts circling her mind, she keeps walking, eyes gently closed in her emotional haze, and ends up colliding into an ugly woman and falls flat on the ground. Her contact lenses fall out and her vision turns blurry. She shouts out that her lenses are gone and keeps apologizing to everyone around her, silently wishing that someone in this cold world would stop to help. Crawling miserably across the floor, she's seconds away from breaking down completely when someone shows up and helps her find the fallen lenses. That someone turns out to be none other than Masato, dressed in a fresh new look. Mizuo quickly hides her messy face, not wanting the person she now sees as her hero to witness her in such a pitiful state. Just moments ago, everything felt unbearable, and now, with his presence, warmth begins to return to her chest. Masato soon finds the lenses and gently places them on a clean handkerchief before handing them to her. Mizuo thanks him, holding the soft cloth as if it were a precious piece of jewelry. Masato asks if she'll be all right now, or if she wants him to take her to a mirror. Touched by how kind and caring he is, Mizuo tells herself not to bother him any further. The boy then bids her goodbye and walks off in a way that almost sparkles, leaving Mizuo frozen in place, as she suddenly realizes she didn't even ask for his name. She slowly leans down with her heart pounding louder than ever, the sound echoing inside her chest while she clutches the piece of cloth closer to her face. Meanwhile, Masato steps into the boys' bar, apologizing for showing up late. The team inside thanks him for bringing the supplies, and one of the guys wonders why he's even there since it's not Friday. Masato casually says he came because they were short on people. Another guy points out the change in his hair, and Yusuke quickly jumps in saying it was his idea, proudly claiming that the style looks great on him. This guy Yusuke is actually the one who helped Masato when he first started working at the bar. Masato finds him a bit too flashy at times, but out of everyone here, Yusuke's mindset feels the closest to what people were like in Masato's original world. Even while getting crushed by his loud energy, Masato notices how Yusuke isn't arrogant at all, especially when it comes to women, and that earns him Masato's respect as a proper senior. As Masato gets back to his duties, his mind drifts to the girl he left behind in a hurry. He still can't stop thinking about the tears in her eyes when she lost her contact lenses. Once he finishes up the cleaning, he checks the checklist and starts looking around for his pen. Just then, the team lead walks up and tells him to get changed because there's a request for him, and it turns out to be none other than Sierra again. Masado quickly gets ready, wondering how unusual it is for Sierra to show up on a day other than Friday. He takes a glance at his hair, which looks different from usual, and wonders if she's going to throw one of her sharp comments, but still heads over to her and notices right away that she seems a little off. Knowing that part of his job is to lift the customer's mood, he casually asks if she doesn't usually only come on Fridays. Sierra replies that she saw him enter the shop, so she decided to come in too. Masado then explains that he wasn't actually scheduled to serve customers today and had just been handling chores in the back room, which is why he showed up late. When the lady keeps staring at his hair, Masado decides to speak up and explains that it was his senior who styled it, then asks if it doesn't look good on him. As Sierra stays quiet, he pushes a little more and tells her she's free to say whatever comes to her mind since he likes talking to her anyway. Sierra grinds her teeth, then suddenly covers her face in embarrassment and apologizes to the boy. Right then, she starts to realize her feelings for him, arguing with herself that she just couldn't help it when she saw him with another girl. To her, it looked exactly like a scene from a novel where a prince meets his princess for the first time. Jealousy takes over as she begins seeing herself as just a side character, but deep down she refuses to let go of Masado, thinking that he should have been the one standing by her side instead. She acts like a jealous girl from a cheap love story and quietly apologizes in her head for ending up stalking him. She screams inside, demanding to know who that girl was and why he wouldn't just tell her. Holding her head like she's completely falling apart, she glances up to find the boy smiling at her, totally unaware of how deep her feelings have gotten. She keeps apologizing over and over while thinking to herself that she really was stalking him and actually got jealous over a girl she didn't even know. She calls herself the worst woman ever and suddenly hugs the boy, completely clueless that she's making him uncomfortable. Masado treats it like part of his job and calmly lets her settle down, telling her it's okay and that he knows she's a genuinely kind person. Sierra, however, places the blame on Masado, thinking that it was his kindness that made her fall for him in the first place. But she hates blaming him too, knowing full well that she's the one at fault, even as she secretly dreams of keeping him to herself. She apologizes in advance for the selfish thoughts in her heart, all while making the face of a classic wicked witch. Meanwhile, Mizuo, who couldn't see the boy of her dreams clearly because of her blurry vision, checks the handkerchief and the pen he dropped. That's when she finds out he's from the same college. Her heart races at the thought of seeing him again, while the creepy witch with twisted thoughts keeps clinging to Masado, silently vowing never to let him go. A few days roll by after Mizuo gets brutally rejected, and now she's drilling Kumi's ears non-stop with poetry about some prince she spotted on the street, to the point where Kumi regrets not walking into traffic when she had the chance. Even though watching her friend spiral after that rejection hurts a bit, it's kind of hilarious how fast she flips the script after some random guy helps her find her contacts, and Kumi wonders if this is finally the time Mizuo meets her soulmate. After all, the girl has racked up more crushes and ex-boyfriends than Taylor Swift, but this time she claims the warm, fluttery feeling is the real deal. While Kumi watches her bestie zone out like she's pondering life's deepest secrets, Mizuo suddenly jumps back to her chaotic self and declares like a budget Sherlock Holmes that it's her moral duty to find the mysterious boyfriend she lost before fate steals him away. She whips out the pen he gave her as a clue, but Kumi reminds her that there are way too many dudes at school to narrow it down, and she doesn't even remember his face. Undeterred by reality, Mizuo insists that the game isn't over till she wins and shares the only actual hint she has. The guy had slick-back hair, which isn't super common. Her face turns bright red just thinking about the moment she gets to return his handkerchief like it's Cinderella's lost slipper. Meanwhile, Kumi scrolls through her phone and sees a text from Masado asking if she's free to meet later. A bit uneasy, she thinks about how she used to keep her man-hungry friends away from even breathing next to Masado, but Mizuho's her ride or die, and now that she has a new crush, things should be fine. Kumi also realizes her cute yet psychotic obsession may have made it harder for Masado to even make guy friends. Without overthinking it too much, she invites Mizuo to hang out with her and Masado in the next period, which catches Mizuo totally off guard because she never thought Kumi would willingly share her crush. Twiddling her thumbs like it's totally not insane, Kumi casually says she refused to let any woman near him because it is natural for them to instantly fall in love from his alpha male energy. Her bizarre level of possessiveness makes Mizuo pause for a moment, and she starts to realize just how much love can twist a girl's brain, but she's genuinely happy for Kumi and starts teasing her, curious to see what kind of man she managed to rope in. Kumi turns red and tells her not to embarrass her in front of him, then mumbles that they're not official yet. That gives Mizuo a perfect opening to flash a creepy grin like she's Master Roshi, and tells her to lock him down while she still can. Meanwhile, Masado reads Kumi's message and feels glad she's finally letting her friends into his orbit, especially since she's been treating them like ghosts ever since he showed up in her life. He heads into class hoping they're not too harsh, only to find Kumi waving him over while strategically blocking Mizuo from his view like it's part of a secret op. Then, like she's doing surprise anime figurine unboxing, she introduces Mizuo to him officially. Looking over at Mizuo, Masado's kind of stunned to realize Kumi's class has been hiding another category of cute girls that somehow slipped under his radar. Nervous as usual, Kumi calls him just a friend, though she plans to change that soon. Masado smiles and says hey, and the three of them sit in awkward silence, making him wonder if he accidentally stepped into a minefield. Kumi asks Mizuo what's wrong, and she suddenly snaps back to her normal self and scans Masado top to bottom, making the wise deduction that he is some premium-grade man candy. Kumi boils with rage and reminds her friend about their bro code, so Mizuo finally drops her goofy act and officially shakes his hand seriously this time. As Masado takes her hand, Masado's surprised by how tiny and breakable it feels, almost like holding a porcelain doll. After school, the trio heads off to the mall and Mizuo jokes that she would have failed that surprise test if Kumi's notes hadn't saved her. Then Kumi realizes she left something important in class, and Masado immediately offers to hold the bag for his queen. Seeing him be so sweet, Kumi can't help blushing and tells him she'll be back real quick. Meanwhile, Masado and Mizuo grab a seat, and she comments how nice he is to his girlfriend. Masado plays it off like it's just how he is, but Mizuo smirks and says he seems like a gentleman who's mostly gentle and just the right amount of man. Out of nowhere, she goes full Sherlock Holmes again, and reveals she needs his help to find her soulmate. Masado stares at Mizuo like she's talking in riddles as she shares that she doesn't really know that much about him, only that he's probably a first year, so she'd love his help. When he asks for a name, she just makes a goofy face before admitting she's not even sure if he's a first year. She tries putting together a basic profile and notes that aside from the slick-back hair, the guy's height is weirdly identical to Masado's. For a second, she wonders if her gut instinct is right, but quickly shakes it off and begs him to help her hunt the guy down on the boys' Discord server. Masado hesitates and confesses, kind of embarrassed, that it's tough to help since he literally has no guy friends at all. Mizuo instantly regrets asking him, but Masado still reassures her that he'll let her know if anything turns up. With that, Miss Sherlock gives him a dramatic salute and proudly announces to Kumi, who's finally back, that Masado will now be joining her detective mission to locate her missing boyfriend. Afterward, the three of them spend the period chatting and laughing like old friends, and Mizuo secretly hopes they'll start hanging out together more often. Later at the station, Kumi heads home on the first train, leaving Masado and her bestie behind to wait for the next one. Sensing an opportunity, Mizuo leans closer and shamelessly asks if he's already taken Kumi for a test drive. Masado quickly shuts it down and makes it clear they're just friends, and he genuinely appreciates having someone like Kumi in his life, especially since he had 0 friends when he transferred. He also feels that dating her would feel like taking advantage of that kindness. Instantly annoyed by the remark, Mizuo grits her teeth and silently wishes her best friend luck for picking a guy denser than obsidian. Suddenly, her eyes widen in panic and she ducks behind Masado, desperate to avoid being seen. It turns out Kato, the guy who cruelly rejected her, is walking by with another girl, and his voice reaches her ears just in time to ruin her evening. He calls her a dumb junior who tried to take advantage of his so-called generous heart. Crushed, Mizuo starts trembling and begs Masado to leave before things get worse, but Kato spots her and adds insult to injury by calling her the ugliest girl in school. Masado can feel her shaking and sees the hurt in her eyes, so he steps up and tells Kato that whatever happened, he'd better apologize fast unless he wants to get folded. Kato barks back, but Masado shuts him down and says she's his girl, and the only ugly thing here is Kato's e-boy haircut. He then points out that she is the cutest and sweetest girl he knows, and just because she confessed to him doesn't make him a prince. Watching this unfold, Mizuo says nothing, though deep down she feels a little guilty for enjoying two guys fighting over her. In the end, Kato shrugs off her simp and walks away with his new girl. Embarrassed, Masado apologizes in case he made it worse, but it's clear Mizuo isn't mad. She tells him to quit smooth talking with that pretty face before she forgets Kumi exists. Still smiling, she thanks him and admits she never should have confessed to Fart Face in the first place. Before she breaks down, Masado gently squeezes her shoulder and says he knows she's hurting, and there's no need to fake that smile. But before she starts crying, he runs off to grab a drink. Her knees give out as she quietly cries on the floor, wondering if she's always been this fragile. Even so, thinking about her real crush gives her strength, and deep in her heart, she apologizes to Kumi for never realizing how hard love really is. Next Friday, Yuka is busy cleaning dusty balls while wishing she could be out there playing with Masado. She feels annoyed about being stuck with this chore just because she's a first year, when her friend sneaks up behind her and asks what makes her Fridays so exciting. Yuka lights up like a traffic signal, which is all her friend needs to realize it's a guy. Just thinking of Masado, she cooks steamy fantasies, even though they aren't even dating. Her friends tease her saying they should follow her, and Yuka panics they might just snatch Masado from her. She feels down at the thought of them ruining her special time when a red-haired senior who's supposed to be their mentor shows up and tells them to spill the tea. Yuka tries to brush it off as a misunderstanding, but when the redhead dares to call her imaginary boyfriend ugly, she holds herself back from attacking the nasty woman who only came to show off her boyfriend to them. Later at home, she spots Masado's towel and, despite knowing it's weird, sneaks in one last sniff before his scent disappears. Her heart nearly melts from the raw manliness, but then her mom barges in holding the water bottle she asked for. That ruins Yuka's mood, so she grabs it and bolts like she's got 5 stars in GTA and a chopper on her tail. At the court, Masado greets her with a smile and Yuka challenges him like always. She misses the time he casually says her first name, so she blurts out that rivals are equals, so he should just call her Yuka. Instantly regretting her outburst, she braces for awkwardness. But Masado finds her energy cute and smirks, saying he's winning today for sure. Before starting, though, he reminds her to warm up unless she wants another repeat of last week's disaster. Their first match kicks off, and to her own surprise, Yuka slips past him with a slick move and sinks a three-pointer and pulls off a mini Kobe Bryant moment. Masado stares at her all pumped up and admits she beat him fair and square even though he tried hard. He jokes she might steal her old spot back at this rate, and she quietly soaks in the praise. Before their next match, though, it starts pouring hard, so they hide under a shed where she notices his wet shirt shows more skin than half the girls at school. While Masado checks on the rain, he is surprised to see Yuka bent over inhaling that towel like it's oxygen. It dawns on her he will be seriously disgusted, and she would die from embarrassment if he realizes she's a sweaty towel sniffer. Worried, he asks her what's wrong, but all Yuka can think of is that hot bod of his. Masado thinks she's cold, so he throws his shirt over her and waits for the rain to stop. He asks her to look away as he takes off his shirt to wring out all the water. Then, her face goes red like tomato sauce when she hears he forgot his spare shirt, and she contemplates turning around to burn the image of him shirtless into her naughty brain. She blames the hormones, and once she catches a peek, her feet don't stop till she is right behind, thinking that no one would notice if she licked him like a lollipop. Before she can act on it, Masado hears a loud thud. He turns and sees Yuka passed out on the ground. The next day, her friends cheer for her after she's chosen for an official match. While Yuka's excited, she feels bad for those who didn't make it. That's when the crazy redhead returns and throws shade, claiming she almost slipped thanks to Yuka's lazy cleaning. Then she stomps on Yuka's confidence and whispers in her ear that she only got picked because the coach likes her. Yuka finds it strange that a senior would stoop so low just because someone younger got ahead. After school, she heads to the court to clear her mind even though Masado won't be there. She notices her skills have improved by playing with him and figures copying his movements will sharpen her game. She pulls off a few clean dribbles and even tries a three-pointer that barely makes it in. The miss makes her realize just how insanely high Masado's skill level really is. Right as she gets ready to try again, the Vulture gang shows up, acting like it's pure coincidence they found her spot. Yuka's heart races, realizing that they clearly followed her here. The girls tease her about hogging the court and try to guilt her into staying. Sensing danger, she tries to slip out, but the redhead grabs her and insists that training with seniors will toughen her up. The big girls tire her out by making her sprint around like she broke out of prison. While they take turns and hydrate, Yuka keeps running without a sip of water. Then the redhead sets up a 2-on-2 and hurls the ball straight at Yuka's face, while her supposed teammate just stands there like a statue. After an hour without water, her legs give up. Just then, Yako's boyfriend says they've had enough. Turns out her blonde senior Yako was really happy to see Yuka beat the older girls, and she is the motivation behind her hard training. That gives Yuka second wind, so she charges at Redhead Senpai and tries to fake her out only to get smacked to the floor along with the ball. Pain floods her body and her lungs feel on fire as she wonders why she has to suffer just because she's good at basketball. The nasty girls gather around Yuka to bully her and question if her stamina is as short as her. But right as she's about to give up, a familiar face shows up saying he wants to join in on the fun. Will Masado show these girls who's boss? And can he really keep 4 girls happy when every other girl in town's lining up to make it 5? Comment, Masado built different if you're ready for them to get humbled in part 2. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button for more awesome videos like this. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.